I'm a clown, right? Because one of my donors said to me, if every kilometre you do 10 push-ups, I will double your donation. So I said, a boy being a boy, yeah, no worries, I can do that. So the first day we did 20 kilometres and 50% of that was in soft sand, right? So by the end of it, you're going, whoa, your toes are starting to hurt a bit. And then the second I did 10, and then this young punk who had been on the camps, and you know these, we all know them. My daughters can be like it, you've got sons, they're a bit cocky, and this young kid goes, I'll do the push-ups with you. I said, righto, how many are we going to do? He goes, how many do you want to do? How many do you want to do? Let's do 15. And this bloke would never have done one push-up in his life. So I said, okay, let's do 15. So then we did another 20Ks, 15 push-ups. By the end, this kid, you know when you get sore, he couldn't even touch his shirt the next day. I go, okay, what are we doing today? He goes, 17. So we did 17 the next day. And then the last night, some of these CEOs, they had a few beers and they had some tequila. And you do dumb stuff after tequila. So they're saying to me, how many do you have to do 2,000? And I was stone cold sober. I said, I don't know, get your calculator out. So it ended up being, I had to do 27 push-ups every K. So we cut it down. So that'd be 2,000 push-ups. And they're all going, oh, you're so fit. And what did you say? I'm pristine condition. Is that how you said it?
That'll do.
Beautiful.
Yeah, you're beautiful.
Mate, the push-ups were easy. The walking was, oh man, my legs were hurting and my neck. I think it's a mental grind, but it's also, without question, a physical grind.
That's interesting, the mental grind, because I was just thinking, because you had an enormous amount of public support through a very difficult period in your life after 2018. And I thought we'd just momentarily stay on that theme about mental hardness. Because in your time, so much has happened outside the game, but also within the game. And I just wonder, when did you first recall, amongst your peers, any talk of concussion, depression, mental health, and suicide awareness? When would that have been first verbalised in the dressing room? I mean, I know the fact that you were not.
You know the first time I recognised it, honestly, when I started coaching Western Australia. And I was blown away over those 5 or 6 years how many young men between the age of 18 and 36 would come into my office and cry. Mm. That really surprised me. I was going, because Alan Border was my first captain. I remember my third test match. I was at bat pad and Merv Hughes was bowling to Martin Crowe. Alan Border's my hero. He goes, Jay, I'll just out to deep backward square leg, son. I said, no worries, Mr. Border. Put the bat. First ball, Merv Hughes bowls a bouncer to the great Martin Crowe, hooks one straight to me. It was an easier catch than Warner got dropped last night. It was the easiest catch in the world, and I dropped it. I was so nervous. Anyway, Alan Border's got his baggy green cap, throws it on the ground, kicking the thing, and I'm going, this is my flipping hero. So you didn't talk about that stuff. Booney, it was like the first time I played Test cricket. I walked into the Hindley Park Royal, and I'd just been selected that day. Bobby Simpson picked me up from the airport, and I walked in, and there at the bar, the night before the test against the West Indies in Adelaide, are all my heroes. David Boone, Alan Border, Steve Warmer, or Craig, and they're all drinking jugs of beer. And Booney was smoking a cigarette, right? I'm going, oh my God, this is the night before that. These days, the night before a test match, they're all meditating. They're all spiritual healing. They're all shaving their legs. They're all polishing their earrings. Oh, they're all counting their cash. It's a joke. But now, it's all changed. It's all changed. But I noticed it when I started coaching and saw these kids, and it wasn't because, despite what you might have read in the media, it wasn't because I was a monster. They were because they come in and telling me their story. And they tell you the story, and you just, wow. And that was the first time I recognised that this is really serious. And then obviously the concussion, the Will Smith documentary, and the concussion in America, we're seeing it. It's a very serious issue in the AFL at the moment, and being on the board of an AFL club, we get to recognise that. It was almost, you didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about anything, but now, obviously, it's really important. There wouldn't be, I imagine, a person in this room who hasn't seen the effects of mental health on young kids, on adults as well, and it is debilitating, and it is sad, and it is just, you can't believe that people in our lucky land, suicide, teenage suicide between the age of 15 and 43 is the biggest killer in Australia, in the lucky country. It doesn't make sense.
No.
Doesn't make sense, but it's real, and we must be very aware of it.
Of course, you had concussion issues yourself as a player, famously in your first test and in your 100th test. Does that cause you to think more sensitively about the whole issue?
That's a very interesting question, because what I have, having had concussions so many times and have come through the other end, everyone's different, right? Everyone's different. But I go, in cricket, it seems to me different, because it's a one hit, you've got a helmet on, and you might get hit in the helmet once, unlike gridiron or boxing or some of the other, where you're getting pounded over and over and over again. I think there's, we have to be aware of it, but it's different in cricket. But it's a funny thing. And am I allowed to say one swear word?
It's up to you.
Okay, I can't say a swear word, so I'll say it a different way. I had dinner with Kerry Packer about 6 weeks before he passed away.
Now you can swear.
Now I can swear? It's not a story, but I won't swear. I promise I won't swear. My grandparents would kill me. So anyway, we're having dinner with Kerry Packer. There was Haydos, myself, the night before the Australia versus the rest of the world test match in Sydney. And we got invited there, and Steve wore 5 of us. And Kerry Packer is telling us all sorts of amazing, many stories, and he talks about luck, how important, and we used to remember Richie Benaud used to talk about how important luck is to leadership. So Kerry Packer's telling us a story, you know, we need luck, and he's telling us about the £10 bill that his great-grandfather found at the Hobart races, and they've got 100 to 1 shot. We wouldn't be in this house without that lucky £10 bill. And he's talking about the Woman's Weekly Press, and it was all about the right timing, and we're waiting to hear about his luck in life. And he's still got a cigarette in his hand. He looks at me and goes, had a bit of luck in your life, haven't you, young fella? I go, oh, yes, Mr. Packer, I'm the luckiest bloke in the world. He said, your luck in life, lucky they invented helmets, or you'd be fucking dead. So I had to say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have sworn, but it was Kerry Packer, and he was renowned for swearing. Little sweetheart, I'm sorry, she's asleep. Mama, she's asleep, so hopefully she's all right. But look, it's a serious issue. Mental health's a serious issue. Concussion's a serious issue. But in my opinion, it can be different in cricket than it is in some of the other codes. Yeah. I would say that.
While we're on that, just briefly, how was your state of mind after the tumult of 2022, after you lost your job as senior coach?
I'd be absolutely lying if I wasn't upset about it. Of course. See, not many people in the world in sport, and that's why a lot of sports people and coaches have a chip on their shoulder. And I say that because very few finish with a Cinderella story. They're either injured, or they get sacked, or they get dropped, and that's life, right? So that's sports, but sport's a tough business. I was disappointed. I was more disappointed by what happens in the... I'm not sure if anyone's seen the David Beckham documentary, and it's worth watching. For anyone who's watched it, I actually texted Steve Smith a week ago and said, I've just watched the David Beckham... I shouldn't have sworn. See, that's what happens. Yeah. I should know better than that. But I said to Steve Smith, I've just watched the David Beckham documentary, and I've nearly cried because it reminded me of you when you came back in England into that World Cup and the Ashes. I've never seen... The abuse was disgusting. I've never seen anything like it. And they're like my kids, like all those boys, again, despite what you might have read in the newspaper for a year, they're like my sons. When you coach, they are like my sons. I love those boys, every one of them. Maybe not one or two, but most of them. And I texted Steve and I said, you know, I just felt it. And that's what happens in the world we live in. And it doesn't matter what leadership role you're in. If you get engrossed in this bushfire of the media as we know it today, you can't get out of it. And no matter what you do, and I remember Sue, my wife, since I was a kid, knowing me all the thing. And I was having a beer with my brother and my wife, and it was right in the middle of this. And my wife said to me, "Darling, I just wish the boys had stopped talking."